Madagascar's new military leader has just thrown the West into panic with a move that no one saw coming. Recently, during a BBC interview, he strongly rejected a BBC interview in French, the island's so-called official language, insisting instead on speaking Malagasy. "Why can't I speak my language, Malagasy?" he asked pointedly, adding, "I do not like glorifying the colonial tongue." And in that simple, profound refusal, he didn't just reject a language, he rejected centuries of chains. Imagine that, my people. In less than a week at the helm, this 51-year-old colonel has ignited a spark that could burn down the last vestiges of France-Afrique. And let me tell you, it's sending shockwaves from the Élysée Palace all the way to the halls of the UN, where the ghosts of yesterday's empires are clutching their pearls. Let me paint the picture for you, because this isn't just another coup. This is a revolution wrapped in olive drab, born from the raw fury of Madagascar's youth. It started over 2 weeks ago, not with tanks rolling in the dead of night, but with the voices of Gen Z protesters flooding the streets of Antananarivo. These aren't your grandparents' marches. These are kids in their teens and 20s, armed with smartphones and an unquenchable thirst for justice, chanting "Malahelo, enough is enough," against the blackouts that plunged their homes into darkness, the water shortages that left taps dry, and a government that promised paradise but delivered poverty for 3/4 of our 30 million kin. President Andry Rajoelina, that slick entrepreneur turned dictator who clawed his way to power in 2009 via his own coup and waltzed back in through rigged elections in 2018, couldn't take the heat. He fled like a shadow at dawn, claiming he was seeking safety abroad. Safety? What safety, Mr. Rajoelina? You left your people unsafe for years. Your palaces lit while their homes flickered in the dark. Your coffers full while their bellies growled empty. And guess who whisked him away on that French military plane as the crisis boiled over? The same France that's now thundering condemnations from Paris, calling for the preservation of democracy. Hypocrisy doesn't even begin to cover it. France, the puppeteer who pulled Rajoelina's strings, sent their iron bird to evacuate their loyal marionette, only to feign shock when the people cut the wires. Enter Colonel Michael Randrianarina, the man of the hour, the quiet storm from Sever-Hippolyte village in the arid south. Born in 1974 amid the dust and dreams of Androy, he rose through the ranks not as a palace favourite, but as a soldier's soldier. Governor of Androy from 2016 to 2018 under the previous regime. Head of an infantry battalion in Toliara until 2022. This is no armchair general. He's the commander of CAPSAT, Madagascar's elite army unit, the very force that engineered Rajoelina's ascent back in 2009. But Randrianarina broke ranks when it mattered. On Saturday, October 11th, as thousands of protesters swarmed the capital's heart, he didn't order his troops to fire on the crowds. No, he drove them straight into the fray, joining the chants, shielding the youth from the tear gas and bullets that Rajoelina's loyalists were itching to unleash. By Monday, with Rajoelina fled and Parliament impeaching him in a whirlwind vote, Randrianarina stood before the vacant presidential palace, his uniform crisp against the crimson walls, and declared to the world's media, "CAPSAT is taking over." The Constitutional Court, that colonial-era relic of red brick and arched windows, rubber-stamped it the next day, naming him the nation's new ruler, even as the ousted president whimpers from exile that he's still in charge. What a joke. In just 3 days, this mysterious figure, scarce in public records, shrouded in the enigma of a true patriot, became arguably the most powerful man on the island. And on Friday, October 17th, amid cheers, blaring trumpets, and raised swords at the High Constitutional Court, he was sworn in as president of the refoundation of the Republic of Madagascar. A large crowd gathered, including those spearheading the protests, their faces alight with cautious hope. "I will fully, completely, and justly fulfill the high responsibilities," he vowed. His words echoing like a vow to the ancestors. But who is this man, really? Not much leaks into the public domain about Colonel Randrianarina. That's the mark of a leader who lets actions speak louder than press releases. What we know paints a portrait of quiet steel, a staunch Christian, described by local journalist Rivanala Razafison as simple but tough, straightforward and fiercely patriotic. He served loyally until Rajoelina's corruption soured the air. Vocal in his criticism of the entrepreneur president who betrayed his own youth-led uprising, Randrianirina was jailed without trial in November 2023. Tossed into a maximum security hellhole on trumped-up charges of inciting mutiny and plotting a coup. Student groups, fellow soldiers, politicians, they all cried foul, calling it political persecution. Released in February 2024 on a suspended sentence, he returned to Capsat not as a broken man, but as a sharpened blade. Just hours before seizing power on Tuesday, he told the BBC he was merely a servant of the people, exuding charm and confidence without a whiff of arrogance. Hospitality in his eyes, resolve in his voice. And then came that moment with the BBC. Offered the chance to respond in French, the so-called official language of Madagascar, he paused, looked straight into the lens and flipped the script. Why can't I speak my language, Malagasy? It wasn't just a question, it was a thunderclap. He refuses to glorify the colonial tongue, and in that refusal, he honours the Malagasy spirit that has resisted for generations. This isn't mere symbolism, my kin, it's a seismic shift. A clear sign that France is staring down the barrel of losing yet another African jewel. Remember how the Sahel slipped from their grasp. West Africa, once their playground, now a fortress of defiance. But Madagascar, that's the crown in the Indian Ocean, a strategic gem they have clutched since 1895. Let's rewind, because to understand Randrianirina's fire, we must walk the bloody path of our shared history. France didn't just colonize Madagascar, they ravaged it body and soul. From the 17th century, French ships haunted our coasts, establishing trading posts at Fort Dauphin and Antongil Bay, luring our people into the maw of the slave trade. By 1882, they were gobbling up northern and western territories, their eyes on the island's vanilla, cloves, and untapped wealth. Queen Ranavalona I, that fierce ancestress we hail as the Mad Queen, only in their twisted histories fought tooth and nail, executing missionaries, banning Christianity, fortifying the highlands against their incursions. She understood, to let them in was to invite the noose. But in 1895, after the Franco-Marina Wars, they stormed Antananarivo, exiling Queen Ranavalona III and declaring our land a protectorate, then a full colony in 1897. For 63 years, they looted us raw. Forced labour under the corvée system built their railroads from Tamatave to the capital, while our people starved. They extracted timber, mined graphite, drained our rice fields for their Réunion plantations. The 1947 Malagasy uprising, a desperate cry against that brutality. 90,000 of our brothers and sisters slaughtered, villages torched, the MDRM party crushed. France classified the documents, silenced the truth until Chirac mumbled unacceptable in 2005. Even post-independence in 1960, under Philibert Tsiranana, their influence lingered like a bad fever, economic advisors puppeteering from Paris, CFA franc chains binding our currency, military bases ensuring compliance. Rajoelina, a French darling, his 2009 coup blessed by Paris, his elections a farce under their watchful eye. Madagascar suffered, poverty gnawing at 75% of us, biodiversity plundered for their labs, youth emigrating in droves. Randrianirina sees it all, the suffering under France-tainted leaders, and he's done. By distancing himself, speaking Malagasy first, pledging a 2-year military-civilian rule before elections, he's signalling liberation. Not just words, actions. The military will form a government, sideline the old guard, refound the republic. France is panicking. Macron's condemnations ring hollow as their plane's engines fade. Losing Madagascar means losing the last foothold in the southwest Indian Ocean, a blow to their fading empire. And Randrianirina isn't alone in this blaze of defiance. He's cut from the same resilient cloth as Captain Ibrahim Traoré in Burkina Faso, that 37-year-old firebrand who's become Africa's anti-colonial rock star. Traoré, seizing power in September 2022 at just 34, didn't waste time. His first salvo, demanding French troops out, gone by January 2023, ending decades of Operation Barkhane that fought jihadists while securing French uranium and gold. He expelled the ambassador, terminated defense pacts, renegotiated mining deals to keep more wealth at home. No more CFA franc servitude. He's pushing self-reliance, making education free from nursery to university, despite Western fact-checkers nitpicking, replacing colonial judicial robes with Faso Dan Fani cotton. Traoré's speeches, pure Sankara reborn, railing against imperialistic pressure, accusing French media of brainwashing Africans. At the 2025 Kremlin Victory Parade, he hobnobbed with Putin, forging ties with Russia and the Alliance of Sahel States, AES. Burkina, Mali, Niger united against ECOWAS sanctions, withdrawing in January 2025 to form their own bloc. Traoré's even foiled coup plots, accusing France of destabilization via Benin and Ivory Coast bases. Critics whisper of repression, rising insurgents, but the youth chant his name. He's no puppet. He's proof that cutting colonial ties works. GDP ticking up 4.9% in 2025 on agriculture and lithium, volunteers arming against jihadists. Randrianirina mirrors him. Both jailbirds of the old guard. Traoré's coup ousted Damiba, echoing Randrianirina's 2023 imprisonment, both elevating indigenous tongues and pride, both turning to non-Western allies. Russia, already whispers of Wagner shadows in the Sahel. Could CAPSAT follow? Look south to Niger, where General Abdurrahmane Chiani's junta, post-July 2023 coup, slammed the door on France harder than a monsoon wind. They revoked 5 military deals from 1977 to 2020, expelled Ambassador Sylvain Ité in 48 hours, booted 1,500 troops by year's end. Uranium mines? Nationalised Somaïr from Orano in June 2025, rescinding licences at Imeraren. No more French cooperation. That's code for looting 40% of Europe's uranium, while our people beg for electricity. Chiani's crew accused Paris of plotting intervention with ECOWAS, leveraging anti-French fury to rally crowds waving Russian flags. They kept US troops briefly for optics, but by September 2024, even those were out, replaced by AES Solidarity. Bans on French NGOs like Acted. Czech withdrawal from G5 Sahel? Done. Now, with Mali, they're building energy grids, curbing grain exports to ECOWAS, harmonizing renewables. Insurgents rage on, but sovereignty, priceless. France's Macron, still waiting for thanks in January 2025, as if counter-terrorism was charity, not empire maintenance. Then Mali, under Lieutenant Colonel Assimi Goïta since 2020's double coup. He expelled French forces in 2022, swapping Barkhane for Wagner, now Africa Corps, accusing Paris of jihadist complicity. UN's kicked out in 2023. ECOWAS sanctions, defied, leading to AES formation and January 2025 exit. Goïta's extended his rule to 2030, postponing elections to 2026, then maybe never. But he's no fool. Lithium booms, GDP at 4.9% in 2025 despite jihadists. Foiled a French-backed coup in August 2025, arresting plotters tied to intelligence. Shrinking civic space? Yes, but so did the democracy he toppled. Mali's path. Decolonize, arm locals, pivot east. This isn't coincidence, family. It's a new face of African leadership, one our forebears dreamed of but rarely saw. Military rulers rising not as tin pot tyrants, but as sovereignty sentinels, cutting colonial umbilical cords and turning to Russia for the tools democracy denied us. Wagner in Mali and CAR, training, not troops. A bargain against French bases that bombed weddings. AES summits in Niamey, joint patrols, shared grain. Putin's parade guests, Traoré, Goïta, signal the shift. Multipolar Africa, where BRICS beckons Ethiopia and Egypt, and Russia fills voids with fertilizer, not lectures. No more IMF strings, self-reliance over servitude. And how did Randrianirina rise? From Gen Z's uprising, that beautiful fury of youth, tired of elders' betrayals. Protests sparked September 25th over outages, swelling to nationwide revolt by October 12th. CAPSAT joined, not conquered. A revolution, not just a putsch. This is the new normal. Coups as course correction when puppets fail. Since 2020, 9 in Africa, Mali twice, Guinea, Sudan, Chad, Burkina twice, Niger, Gabon. Why? Security flops, corruption feasts, elections as theatre. A minute a leader becomes a Western stooge, rejecting the people, boom, soldiers step in. The coup trap correlation. One succeeds, others follow, but now with popular cheers. Corrupt African leaders, shaking in their ill-gotten suits. Togo's Nassing Bey clings via constitutional tricks. Chad's Deby won 60% in 2024 farce. Gabon's Nguema 90% in 2025 after rewriting rules. They're panicking because the youth see through it. Puppets fall when power corrupts absolutely. Madagascar's message, work for the people, or the people and their protectors will topple you. A lesson etched in blood. Democracy without dividends is despotism in disguise. By shunning French, Randrianirina heralds the end. Malagasy ascendant colonial lingua franca fading. It's a matter of time before French is scrubbed from schools, courts, airwaves, just as Traoré demoted it in Burkina. This transition, fraught with obstacles, a EU suspension, UN pleas, legal fog, but optimism flickers. Randrianirina's 2-year pledge, military-civilian hybrid, elections by 2027. Not perfect, but better than Rajoelina's rot. This was no bare coup. It was revolution reclaiming a looted land, from French forts to Rajoelina's vaults. So what now? Rise with me, Pan-African kin. Support Randrianirina's refounding, Traoré's resilience, Chiani's tenacity, Goita's grit. Boycott French goods. Amplify Malagasy voices. Build AES-like alliances continent-wide. France panics because their empire crumbles. Good. Let it fall. Africa's dawn breaks. Not with Western blessings, but our own hands. And Panazava ho Anifira Nena Rehetra, light for all nations. The storm is here. Let's dance in the rain. As Colonel Randrianirina's oath echoes across the Indian Ocean, Madagascar's upheaval delivers an unmissable verdict to Africa's corrupt elites and a bold blueprint for its people. For presidents like Togo's Nassing Bey, Cameroon's Biya, and Uganda's Museveni, who've clung to power through ballot stuffing, foreign cash and brutal crackdowns, the message is brutally clear: deliver or disappear. No longer can you jet to Paris for luxury while citizens queue for water in the dark. Gen Z's smartphone-fueled fury proves one truth. A single spark of neglect ignites a national inferno, with soldiers waiting to tip the scales. Your armoured convoys and election victories of 90% are relics. Expect midnight tank rumbles if you ignore the 90% unemployed youth pounding your palace gates. From baobab roots to urban beats, the motherland reclaims her glory. Panazava ho Anifiranena Rehetra, light for every nation. Tomorrow belongs to the vigilant, not the vassals.